I'm going to say something controversial here. I love Donkey Kong 3. It's like Nintendo was trying to make a sequel to Galaxian, but decided to make it part of the Donkey Kong series. And it combines that shooting with a base defense like you find in Missile Command. It's one of my favorite games to play at the local arcade. And that makes the Famicom version kind of disappointing. In Donkey Kong 3, Stanley has a problem. Donkey Kong has invaded his greenhouse for some reason, and has teamed up with bees for some reason. Donkey Kong wakes up the bees and slowly descends the vines that he's hanging on to. Stanley is armed with a bug sprayer that he can use to take out the bees that are trying to steal his flowers and push Donkey Kong back up those vines. If Donkey Kong reaches the top of the screen, then the game moves on to the next stage. If Stanley's hit by something or Donkey Kong falls off a vine, he loses a life. Oddly enough, you do not lose a life if all your plants are stolen. That only affects the bonus. Unfortunately, Stanley's bug sprayer isn't very good. It's got a pretty limited range, so he'll need to bounce up platforms and jump up to spray Donkey Kong up at the top of the screen. On some of the vines, there's a super sprayer that has unlimited range. Stanley will have to push Donkey Kong up to knock that sprayer off. A strange thing about the super sprayer is that it persists between levels. There's a time limit for its use. And so if you move very quickly, you can use it to clear multiple stages. The sprayer comes back when the player loses a life, so it's not uncommon to lose a life as things get more hectic, and then be able to zip through a stage because the sprayer is back. There isn't a huge variety to the enemies in this game. The buzzbees are the common enemies. They swirl around the hive and eventually come down to pick up flowers. Vespies are the larger bees. They take multiple hits to destroy, and when they get killed, they explode into a shower of fragments that can kill Stanley. Stay directly underneath them to avoid that attack. The creatively named attackers look like mosquitoes. They aggressively go after Stanley. The attackers get a bit of a makeover starting at level 12, but they still have the same pattern. The worst enemies are the Creepies. They look like caterpillars and descend on the vines. They can't be beaten by the normal spray and instead block your shots as they move back and forth on the platforms they reach. Worst of all, if you do spray them as they're on a platform, they get stunned and stay in place for a few moments. The best way to deal with them is to push them back before they get onto the platforms with a spray, but the super spray can also destroy them. There's 3 different boards, but not a whole lot of difference in how they play. The blue tiers are the most basic one, with crawlies coming down the sides, and an easy straight shot up to Donkey Kong. The red girders have a gap in the middle that you have to maneuver around. That makes it a lot harder to get up to Donkey Kong. But it's not that much different from the blue. The third stage has vines going the whole way across for the crawlies, and the Donkey Kong vines are much shorter. Beating this stage is the victory, as Donkey Kong's head goes into the beehive. The game's music is another first for the Famicom platform. It's an extended riff on Flight of the Bumblebee. Adapting classical music into a game's soundtrack is going to come up surprisingly often in the Famicom. Donkey Kong 3 is also a last for the Famicom. This is the last time we're going to see a Nintendo arcade game ported to the system. There is one more game coming that will share the same title as an arcade game that Nintendo made, but it's so radically different from that game that I can't really call it a port. The reason for Donkey Kong 3 being the end of the line for Nintendo's arcade ports is obvious. Donkey Kong 3 was released to the arcades in October 1983, right when the Famicom was taking off like a rocket. Nintendo's arcade division would persist for a while, but now they were the ones following the Famicom rather than the other way around. By all accounts, Donkey Kong 3 was a bit of a failure for Nintendo, and it effectively killed the Donkey Kong brand for 10 years. It didn't get a picture cart re-release, and no new Donkey Kong game would be released until the Game Boy. It's hard to put my finger on why I find the Famicom version of Donkey Kong 3 so disappointing. I feel like it might be the slower pace of the Famicom version. The squashed play area in the home version doesn't help either. Game B does the same thing that you see in other early Famicom games, where it just starts you one loop further in, but one loop in still isn't as frantic as the arcade system. Donkey Kong 3 came out at the exact wrong moment. It's a single-screen shooter along the lines of Galaxian or Space Invaders in an era when arcade games were becoming more complex. So despite its qualities, it's become an overlooked chapter in Nintendo's history.